Hello, I'm Helen from Journal with Purpose and welcome to my latest YouTube video. I hope you're doing really well. Today I'm going to create some pages in my junk journal. I'm really close to having finished this one now. I've just got a few kind of single pages left to do. So this is my last double page spread. I'll possibly just do a little bit of painting or something on these single sheets, but I'll share a flip through of the completed journal very soon. I've got some little bits of packaging which I've had kind of floating around on my desk for a while now, so I'd quite like to use some of these. These were from some chocolates that my sister gave me for my birthday, and this came in a London Gifties package. This was on my Hobonichi packaging. And I've also had the latest copy of a free gardening magazine that gets put through the letterbox. So I just thought it'd be nice to start kind of working my way through some of these things. I really like the free magazines. They always have beautiful images, but also some nice kind of wording as well. Shine on, lush, love. So I always try and look out for things like that, like how cool. They would just be great to use as little sentiments in your journal. So I think I'm going to just start with this side. I always like to add some writing as well to my journal. So I'll try and create a little writing spot somewhere along the way. There's so many little details which would be lovely just to cut out and use as individual images. So I'm thinking it would be nice to have this coming kind of over half the page. So I'm going to cut this down, probably just a little bit bigger than I need it. I'm trying to keep the wording intact along the bottom. And so it will have some other kind of lettering over the side of that image, but I'm not too worried about that. I'm just checking the size for now. So I think that will work really well. So I'm now just going to kind of cut around the petals a little bit more. I'm really not worried about this being too precise. I admire people who do wonderful fussy cutting. I tend to just go a bit looser with it. I still want to get the shape of petals around the outside, but if I cut slightly into them, we'll leave a little bit of the green. I'm not going to worry about that. But as soon as this one came through the door in the last week or so, I just felt that image on the front was going to end up in one of my journals somewhere along the way. Okay, I really like that, and I'm going to add some extra decoration over the top of here. I think I'm going to add a butterfly, but I'll come to that in a bit. And I'm going to use Pritt Stick to glue this down. But I knew that my little pile, my basket of bits of paper and packaging and things that I kept was building up, so I thought this would be another good opportunity. I did some pages over on Patreon last week in here using packaging as well, and I also used a bottle top lid for some printing and the base for creating the flower. Again, the bottle lid there, some little tea tags. So I'm getting through my stash, definitely. So I'll come back to this side a little bit later on. And for here, I think I'm going to keep it fairly simple. What I have in mind is that I'll probably use these little bits of paper as my writing spots on top. So I'm just going to use this really as a kind of very quick collaged background. And it's nice because I'll remember things like my package from London Gifties, along with my birthday chocolates from my sister. And they were absolutely delicious, I have to say. I love the Monty Bojangles. I was going to see how well the Pritt stick will hold this down because it's quite a shiny foil. But I could staple the edge if I need to, or use some PVA glue if I want something else to hold it down. And I'm quite pleased because I've still got some of that book text showing from underneath. So I might have a quick look and see how these would look. So I had in mind that I'd have 2 of them. I didn't really want to cover up too much of it. I think actually if I go that way, that's probably going to work a little bit better. I don't mind covering up more of the bottom of that tea bag. I've just emptied a new cereal box this morning, so I think that will be the base of my cover for my next journal. I accidentally put it in the recycling and I've already gone back into that this morning to hook it out as one of my next little projects. Okay, so I'm pleased with kind of the base layer. I'm now going to add my butterfly decoration on here. So this is the stamp that I want to use. This came from a creative stamping magazine a few months ago now, I want to say, certainly earlier this year. And I just want to use the actual butterfly element, and I'm going to use it in 2 different ways. So I'm going to do some stamping and some embossing. So I've got an acrylic block there, which it just about fits on. And I'm going to use my black Stays On ink pad. It's probably only the body of the butterfly that I'm going to want to use, but I'm getting it all stamped out for now so I can decide once it's done. So I'm going to stamp with that onto some printer paper here. And this is going to be a similar process that I used. I shared a tutorial on Patreon for doing this butterfly here, so it's going to be a similar kind of process to that, but I'm not doing all of the background for the tag. I'm just going to use the butterfly. Okay, that's great. And I'm going to be doing some embossing, so I am actually going to give my stamp a quick clean today. I'm not usually very good at cleaning them, I must say, so I've got some little Stays On cleaner here. I'm just going to give that a quick rub on there because I'm going to be using white embossing powder. I ideally don't want any of that black ink still on there. So I think that's come out nicely. So I'm now going to use my clear embossing ink pad, and I'm going to be stamping onto some tracing paper that I've got here. I'm trying to work fairly quickly to make sure that the ink stays nice and wet. So I'm going to pop that down on there, and the embossing powder I'm going to use is by Wow, and it's opaque bright white. So I'm just going to pop some scrap paper underneath while I do this. I'm just going to sprinkle this all over the butterfly image. You can see the paper underneath where I've been cleaning my brayer. I'm hoping I've got that image nicely covered. It's always a bit harder to see when you're working with kind of clear stamping onto a clear background. Okay, so I'm really pleased with how that's looking. So I'm just going to pop that back in there, and I'm then going to use my heat tool just to set that embossing powder on the butterfly. So that's now set really nicely and come out in that bright white. So I want to add some colour to it. So I've picked out two of my alcohol markers. These are chameleon colours, and I've gone for like a purple to tie in with the flower and a kind of tealy colour to tie in with this wrapper here. So I'm just going to turn that over a minute and colour on the back end. And I'm just going to concentrate on the winged areas. And then this should show through kind of all those little gaps on the other side. So it's quite nice because you don't need to be terribly neat. So I'll just finish off this bottom section here. But any stamps that have got kind of lots of little gaps in will work well for this technique, because you want kind of your colours to be able to show through. I mean, or you could just use the white embossing image by itself, because it's absolutely beautiful, especially if you're layering it on top of something and you want to be able to see what's underneath. I've got a range of embossing powders that I like using in different colours, including clear, which can be quite fun to use as well as a bit of a resist. So now if you turn that over, it's kind of nice and subtle. You can see the colours, but not anywhere like as bright as on the other side. The reason I've done the black stamped image is because, like I did with the card here, I actually cut that out separately and glued the black on top. I don't even know if I'm going to worry about that today. I might just use it as it is. So I will cut this out semi-neatly. Just going to get it down to size. Just want to check that I'm happy with that. Yeah, so I'm just going to cut that image out a little bit more neatly now. So I've now cut this out, and I've also cut out half of the black stamped image because I thought that would look nice on this page and help to just tie those two in together. I'm going to use Pritt Stick again. Last time I glued down tracing paper using Pritt Stick, I did have to do it a couple of times, just added a bit of glue under any bits that peeled up. Again, PVA glue, matte medium, would probably help, but we'll see how it goes. So I'm just going to pop that up there, half over the magazine image. And if I need to, I'll just pop a little bit of perhaps matte medium under the edges using a brush. And glue this one to the side of my page. So it's going to go a little bit over that writing spot, but I think that will make that kind of quite interesting any way to write on. And just trim that along the edge there. Yeah, this one's definitely having a little bit of a peel upwards, which I did find last time, but it did hold in the end using just Pritt Stick. So I'll see how we go. I want to do just a little bit more stamping using some of the stamps from this set. So I'm going to do a little bit of black stamping. I'm going to pop a bit along the bottom there. And again, I'm going to add some on the other pages. That's something I like to do, just help kind of tie completely different pages in together. I also really like the kind of combination of mixing kind of recycled items and packaging with newer techniques and stamping, things like that. I also want to add my date to this page, so I think I'm just going to pop that along the bottom there. And I fancied using the word love that I'd pointed out earlier from the cover of this magazine. And I'm thinking that would look nice glued just over there. That's definitely starting to hold down a little bit better now. And hopefully once I close the journal, that will just help to keep that flat. Okay, so I think the last thing I'm going to do is just add a little bit of journal writing. So not too much, but I think I might perhaps turn my cover and write that way here and then that way, just so that I make the most of the space that's there. And I'm just going to use a black Muji gel pen for this. Okay, well that's the journal writing added and my page is complete. I really hope you've enjoyed this journaling session and that perhaps it's given you some ideas for using packaging or magazine images in your journal and perhaps a little bit of heat embossing with your stamps. As always, I want to say a massive thank you to everybody who's joined me over on Patreon. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope you're doing really well and I look forward to speaking with you really soon in my next video.
Together would light the fire, hypnotized by blue and amber flame. Pour the wine, raise a glass, toast to memory.